No KRS-One said, Hawk, you want to get down with BDP? You got to take this test. You know what I mean? I was ready. Here you go. Make some from nothing by uttering the word. Niggas don't get it? I must be stuttering from the herb. Y'all be cluttering in the burbs. Hovering with nerds. I'm trying to build shelter from the oncoming purge. Donald Trump is tripping. I'm trying to stave the surge. Do it for the bricks. But first, laugh and market merge. Get my brothers out the county. See the city reemerge. I'm trying to keep it straight. My people living on the curb. Motherfucker got to nerve. Must not have heard. I'm tired of the pimps pushing speeds in the perbs. Fire with the bars, metaphors, and the verbs. I'm gonna see them go to college, not make them whores on the curb. So disturbed, so stay high as a bird. Niggas want this smoke, hit me up, you'll get served. I'm sick with technique, I'm ill with the maneuver. DJs want my effect like they were straight out the sewer. I talk, I'm a doer. Find me in the viewer. I'm so underground, you're the Barbie in the sewer. I'm a grown man in this young world, I feel like I'm Rick the Ruler. I'm trying to get all these bars, but I'm not Robert the Ruler. The rhymes I say, sharp as a nail. Witty as can be and not for sale. Always funky fresh, could never be stale. Took a test to become an MC and didn't fail. The rhymes I say, sharp as a nail. Witty as can be and not for sale. Yeah. Y'all shrivel up, raising in the sun. I could blaze you with the gun, rather raise you like the one. In the hood, y'all sweat it out, but I remain the champion. Smoky like the bear, bring fire to your camp. When I light up the air like wires in a lamp. Coke in your ear, hear the fire and get amp. I got that choke keeping near, always fire when I jam. My flow absolute style classic, got the proof. 0 to 100 on the ledge like the roof. Make them disappear out of thin air, they go poof. Facts come and go, Hakeem remains the truth. The rhymes I say, sharp as a nail. Witty as can be and not for sale. Always funky fresh, could never be stale. Took a test to become an MC and didn't fail. I drop jewels. Science, mathematics, language arts, social studies, lyrical gymnastics, style, charismatic, pragmatic with the sentence structure. Smile is aromatic, fanatic with the ism structure. Back to the subject, how I school MCs. I get checks off the blue cheese. UMC, to call me powder, then I blew UNC. Taking y'all back to school like fools in truancy. I rock with the teacher like the board education. Fuck doc with the reefer, got a script for medication. Get A's for dedication on my way to graduation. Hand in hand like diplomas rolled up. Congratulations. The rhymes I say, sharp as a nail. Witty as can be and not for sale. Always funky fresh, could never be stale. Took a test to become an MC and didn't fail. The rhymes I say, sharp as a nail. Witty as can be and not for sale. Always funky fresh, could never be stale. Took a test to become an MC and didn't fail.
Ha, you want to get down with BDP? You got to take this test.
Keep that.
Cause the rhymes I say, sharp as a nail, witty as can be, not for sale. Always funky fresh, could never be stale. Took a test to become an MC and didn't fail. You best believe the culture, hip hop culture, that is. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Hakeem Green, Channel Live and Direct. Of course, BDP all day, every day. All we do is spark mad ism. And today we were over here on the Hakeem Green Show with something big set up for later. We doing something different, just slightly different. We added a little element to the whole shit of the night. Big shout out to Vita, who made some suggestions, and I like to take advice from those who know better. So I said, okay, let me kind of incorporate this into the flow of things. So what we'll be doing from now on every Hakeem Green show is a current events segment. Start the show off with a current events segment. Discuss what's happening in the world. You know, give my insight, give my take, my perspective, my lens, my, coming from, hip hop culture, of course, but as a former educator. I mean, still an educator, I guess, developing curriculums and all types of things. And eventually later on down the line, we'll get into all that, working on some huge things. Again, using the culture as a lens to do just more than rap, y'all, because hip hop is not what we do, it's how we do it. I say that all the time. Hip hop is not what we do, it's how we do it. And coming from our particular lens, you know, looking at the world through the hip hop lens, I want to give my take on what we see happening in today's climate, historical context to it, from, again, my perspective. You know, when it comes to hip hop, I definitely look at myself as an authority on it. That doesn't mean I know everything. Doesn't mean that I can't adhere to other perspectives. It just means that, you know, I kind of pride myself in upholding the traditions of hip hop culture: peace, love, unity, safety, having fun, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, freedom, power, refinement, equality, God, build to destroy, born, and of course, I'm about that cipher, about that cipher. So that said, my producer, Miss Beta Jamel Ridgway, is in the background lining up some topics for discussion. You know, I run my mouth, not ready, have to upload. Okay, you're gonna have to let me know when you want to bring these in. Need about 5 minutes or so to get them in the system. Not ready to have, it's all good. I'll just run my mouth, you know. I've had some practice on running my mouth throughout my life. Ask my teachers, they'll tell you, boy, Hakeem is very talkative. And I would always have an opinion or a take, a perspective. You know, that said, the first topic we will discuss is someone who also likes to run their mouth on things they have no idea about. Initially, I met this man 15, 16 years ago, probably, when he had a show on ESPN called, quite frankly, with Stephen A. Smith. Oh, there we go. Sorry. With Stephen A. Smith. And I was actually extremely impressed by this man, the way he delivered sports journalism, sports news, sports media. You know, I wasn't used to seeing someone, you know, black man, more specifically, be so steadfast in his beliefs, his takes. And, you know, he had a way of kind of representing us in a way that, you know, I was kind of proud to see, proud to, you know, have witnessed, not just on TV, but being in the studio audience at one of his shows, quite frankly, with Stephen A. Smith. And actually, I congratulated him after that particular show about how I felt he was, you know, standing up for our perspectives as Black people. Then over the years, yeah, a little shuffling, actually a lot of shuffling. You know, the Donald Duck, or excuse me, the Daffy Duck meme, when he got the hat on, he da 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 da. You know, Stephen A. Smith get his jig on big time. I think the first time we witnessed him, well, you know, he commented on the Ray Rice assault of his then fiance, later to be wife, Janae Rice. And Stephen A. talking about what happened, what we saw, what we witnessed with Ray Rice striking his fiance at the time, but also what led up to those events and how Janae Rice had admitted to being physical with Ray Rice. Stephen A. Smith commenting on that and forewarned all parties, keep your hands to yourself. You know, ladies, keep your hands to yourself. Brothers, keep your hands to yourself. But he couched it in a way that I guess was taken as him blaming the victim. And Michelle Beadle, his co-host at ESPN, took exception to Stephen A.'s take on things, went up to the higher ups, you know, put the hammer down, or had the hammer. You know, Stephen A. Smith was punished. He He had to have a leave of absence. I think it was like a 2-week leave of absence. 2-week leave of absence, and or so, something like that. He came back, and he's been the changed man ever since. Where, his defense of Black athletes, to me, has been lacking great in a big way. He's found himself at odds with, certain athletes, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Jaylen Brown. It tends to be Black athletes that kind of step up for the people, step up for Black folks. Muhammad Islam, peace, God. You're not scheduled to 9 o'clock. I'm just going to do an early segment up until that time. I see you in the green room. If you want to kind of just back out, relax, chill for another 20 minutes, or you're welcome to stay back there. But I just want to just cover some current events until we get to 9 o'clock, my brother. But Stephen A. Smith, his takes have been, extremely problematic for Black people, his audience of African-American descent, people of color, women at times have taken exception. His coverage of the WNBA and the particular stances that he's made. He hasn't seemed to been able to stand up for the small guy, if in the way we expect someone of his stature, of his position, being the HNIC over at ESPN. We need somebody to kind of step up and stand out. And we watched Terrell Owens kind of put him in check, ruffle some feathers when he said that in terms of the Colin Kaepernick conversation, Terrell Owens made the observation, or at least he said that the people in the streets was saying that Max Kellerman was more Black than Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith took exception to that analysis, pushed back on Terrell Owens, and he took exception to what was being said. But since then, it hasn't really changed much, my brother. You haven't done a great job of, showing and proving, the Black card, if you want to say that. Like, you've been lacking in that way. The second time I met Stephen A. Smith in person was at an event, a town hall meeting in Harlem. It was when Hot 97, excuse me. It was when ESPN was buying the radio signal that broadcast 98.7 KISS FM. ESPN came and bought that signal. I want to say it was from Emmis, but I'm not quite sure. You can fact check me. Let me know what it is in the comments. But they bought the signal from that broadcast station, the 98.7 KISS FM channel, and that became ESPN Sports. In doing so, some of our traditional Black radio, Black media personalities got the axe. I think there was an AM station attached to that as well. So, for New Yorkers or, the Black community in the tri-state area, were depending on these people for news that specifically affected the African-American community. And there was some pushback on this whole buyout of that signal and what that was going to do to the community. And they sent Stephen A. in to, calm down the natives. You know how they do. And they send somebody that looks like us to kind of calm us down, kind of put the spin on it, and he did just that. He did a very good job at doing that from the corporate standpoint. But for the, our community losing their voices, their perspective, their source for information, their source for political discourse, that kind of got annihilated by that happening. That was bad news for them, and thus bad news for the Black community at large. That was my second time meeting Stephen A. Smith. And then following him closely, like I said, he's just been wanting in how I think he should be a voice for the African-American community. Lately, we've seen him delve into the realm of politics. We see him over on Fox News. We see him sit down with the likes of, what's the boy's name over at Fox News? What's his name? What's the Fox News cat? Not Tucker Carlson. Although I think he sat with Tucker Carlson. what's the boy's name over at Fox? The main guy with the big chin, with the big head. Come on. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Stephen A. Smith frequents these more conservative panels, these more conservative conversations. Donald Trump has bigged this dude up, giving him kudos. You know, you see Stephen A. Smith kind of gush over the then president. I don't want to go there with it. I don't want to hit the pause community be hitting in the chat. Pause, God, pause. But, Donald Trump sucking him off kind of turned Stephen A. on. Pause. It's just his stance on a variety of things, from his attacks on Kamala Harris, his attacks on Joy Reid, his attacks on his stance on Nicole Good, the victim of ICE in Minnesota that happened a few days ago. Stephen A. Smith immediately jumps in support and in defense of ICE and these ICE officers, these rogue officers who are running rampant. The president's stance in using ICE to, basically attack, more progressive communities, more liberal communities that aren't within the conservative sphere of influence. And we see Stephen A. Smith just ready to kind of, be Uncle Ruckus and walk around, with the anyway, that's something to look out for, ladies and gentlemen, because, Stephen A. Smith getting $100 million contract from ESPN that he likes to brag about. He has a position to play. And, we thought it would be just sports journalism, but it seems to be much more than that. He's actually hinted at himself running for office at some point. And I think that a lot of this is him kind of getting his feet wet in that sense, just creating a different brand, a Stephen A. Smith brand. And, what that does to our community when we don't do the knowledge and we don't act accordingly. I'm actually very happy to see the pushback on Stephen A. Smith, from independent media to folks who used to be mainstream, who are now independent media. Don Lemon, of course, Joy-Ann Reid are very strong in their pushback against Stephen A. Smith. Reese Colbert, who's an independent voice that, does a lot of conversations around political discourse. She's been extremely diligent in pushing back against Stephen A. Smith. Roland Martin is another one who's been dedicated to kind of, being that adversarial voice that we really need in mainstream Black media. Or excuse me, not so mainstream Black media, but these used to be mainstream voices coming into independent media to kind of, hold us down. We have to support all of these platforms, all of these folks, all of these, newly created media institutions that represent our voice. We don't always have to agree with these people. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, to stand against the mainstream, is always good to see, organized force standing against mainstream discourse, because we know that the mainstream discourse is usually never in support of the Black movement, Black and brown movement, progressive politics, and so forth and so on. So, Stephen A. Smith, we hope that you can find it in your, in your heart, in your mind to, maybe come on back over to the other side, my brother. Stephen A. Smith, you sound more like Stephen A. Candy every time we hear from you. And those who know. Thousands show up to see I Show Speed in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, I Show Speed is a what do you call it? A streamers phenomenon. This brother is doing so much to really put, they call them the YNs, but the young gods, the young kings, our young generation. He's representing us and them so well internationally. First online with his athletic prowess, his I Show Speed. Of course, he's one of the fastest guys doing it. He's challenging everybody to a race, challenging everybody to some type of athletic competition. But he's actually proven to be an international ambassador for our people. And it's inspiring. It's great to see the love that he's receiving in Africa. You know, all of the negative commentary that we grew up on about Africa and our people, you know, on the motherland, on the continent. We hear a lot of discourse around, you know, Africans don't even like African Americans or black people like that. And they don't even embrace us like that. They don't even get down with us like that. Well, he's showing you that all of that narrative is totally false. You know, no two people think alike. Not everybody agrees on everything, no doubt. But the outpouring of love shows that I would say the majority of Africans embrace their brothers and sisters over here in the Americas. Now, there's the conversation about foundational Black Americans and how we're, you know, we're the original indigenous folks and we're from here, we're not from there. Hey, whatever you, man, I'm about unity and I'm about people that look like me, think like me, vibrate on my, I'm about embracing that, you know, and magnifying that. And I Show Speed, I think, has been the epitome of just that, connecting with our people on the motherland, exposing them to, you know, African Americans, Black, foundational Black American, how are we slicing that pie, you know, across the many countries throughout Africa. I think it's 54 countries on the continent. And he was recently in Nairobi, Kenya. He was down in Botswana. I saw him the other day. There was video of him in Botswana, and they had him at the diamond factories, the diamond, he wasn't at the mine. I didn't see him at the mine, but it was more of a commercial setting where they had an assembly of uncut raw diamonds displayed that spelled out his name, I Show Speed. It was probably maybe like 8-9 feet long, I Show Speed. And then they were explaining to him how, you know, these uncut raw diamonds came right out of the ground. And the distinction between uncut raw diamonds and the finished polished diamonds that we get from Israel. People need to understand that South Africa, Botswana, other places in the southern part of Africa produce all of the diamonds in the world, just about. Not all of them, but primarily all of the diamonds in the world. Israel is the greatest importer of raw diamonds, uncut diamonds in the world. Israel is the greatest exporter of finished diamonds, polished diamonds. When you get the diamonds in your watch, when you get the diamonds in your jewelry, when you paying top dollar, when you go to 47th Street in Times Square, you go to the, you know, the mini K jewelers, this jeweler, that jeweler, you know, wedding rings, engagement rings, I mean, all of that. Israel sees the profit. Our people put in the work. When I say our people, people of color, poor people, oppressed people, we put in the work sometimes at the loss of a limb. There's stories that go back, you know, decades, 100 years about forced labor being made to mine diamonds out of the earth. And if something didn't add up, if something went missing, if one of the workers tried to pocket something, they would lose a hand. If they didn't meet the quota, they would lose hands. You know what I mean? So, you know, I Show Speed exposing just that conversation. He doesn't have to take on that fight. He doesn't have to have that conversation. But just naturally, that conversation happens because people who are paying attention, who have the information, now have the platform to share with the folks that they're tapped into. So, yeah. Big shout out to I Show Speed. Where we at now? Uh-oh. Let me see. We did Stephen A. Smith, I Show Speed. The future of Instagram will not look like this. Wait a minute. I'm missing something. Come on, let's run that, Vita. Let's talk about it.
It was AI. And that's why last week Adam Mosseri said Instagram is about to look way different. Because you can no longer tell what's real and what's fake. This is an AI photo with no makeup. They've now figured out how to do the flash on the camera. They figured out messy hair. We fed machine learning algorithms so many photos like this that it knows how to perfectly recreate that look. So yeah, we're cooked. Disproportionately, this algorithmic shift is going to impact women. Fitness pics, get ready with me's, beauty routines, done. Moving forward, if you want to be a woman who creates content, you have to do the opposite of all of this. Even though it's disproportionately women right now, they're still coming for the fellas as well. A lot of these accounts have very large followings, but I dug into it a little bit to see who's actually following these accounts. Comments on this video are almost all AI or people associated with AI, for example, people who created the models. Judo was created by Cameron, who uses they, them pronouns. Cameron also owns other AI models and runs a digital AI modeling agency. This is Cameron's business partner, Tom. Separately, there's also this guy who also runs an AI modeling agency. See a theme here, right? A bunch of people want to have agency over what appears to be women, and in many cases, women of color. And as a result, real women have to suffer because now women are being told you basically have no place on Instagram. It's so sad how legacy fashion media like Vogue and once respected people like Murakami have leaned in and completely accepted this practice. For so long, the fashion and beauty industry told women they had to be perfect, have flawless skin, and have snatched bodies with perfect curves. And now they're calling you lazy and boring.
Right. So it's really the takeover is in full motion. When I say the takeover, I mean the takeover of our humanity. And we have to be careful in that we feed our own destruction. We feed our own annihilation. These programs, these platforms that we're using, when you hear stuff like the CIA has technology 25, 30 years in advance, all of these different platforms and places and means of technology have been around longer than its commercial use. So when the commercial use comes into play, it is connected to a military operation, because that's why these platforms were created in the first place. They were created as devices for war, devices for espionage, devices for intel, devices for programming, TV programming. We get programmed via social media, via the internet, via Instagram, so forth and so on. And then we get used to seeing things that aren't real as real. We start to embrace concepts that aren't real as real. Those, unrealities will then become our reality. And the creator of the program is the one who is the God of your program. When we're so locked into these devices, so locked into these platforms of technology, the folks who create these technologies then become our gods. And they get to decide who lives, who exists, who kicks the road, who kicks the can. And so as we use these devices, whether it's, Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, AI, so forth and so on, let's be judicious in how we, give of ourselves, because we can end ourselves seeing ourselves not being, we become obsolete. And we don't want that to happen. Human resource is the greatest resource. We want to protect that. Now, our guest is in the building. What I want to do is I want to set it up right. I have a joint that I'm going to play called Stolen Art. Stolen Art is about how our culture has been taken from us as we just watch the thing on Instagram, how our lives on Instagram has been being taken from us. This is how hip hop, in my perspective, was taken from us. And I think that'll be a great way to set up one of the pioneers, one of the progenitors of our culture, Muhammad Islam. That said, this is Stolen Art, produced by Amin Ra, Ron Lawrence, featuring Carl Thomas.
Something out of nothing, the culture grew from breaks. B-boys with fat laces helping DJs carry crates. 12 inches with the name covered up, 45 black with tape. Needle dropping on the get down part on the one, never late. Moonwalk look like skates, time is infinite like the 8. Build to destroy the devil's world, God body at the gate. In God we trust, the dollars we lust, catching crumbs off the cake. Now we bop to a beat on walls of concrete in Northern State. It was 88, we was victims of a scheme. It was all just a dream, but now my homie is a fiend. We live for the culture, but we kill for the cream. Trying to make the street light up, stay on your toes, Billie Jean.
How can you justify what you've taken culturally? You love to lie to hide the truth. Do you really think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're me?
It's like hip to the hibit, flow liquid like exhibit. It'll create the culture with every breath as I live it. They try to prohibit, but I'm the master of the pivot. No gimmicks on point like a digit. I'm like Malcolm, ready to rock it. Get your hand out my pocket. Everybody the gatekeeper, but y'all forgot to lock it. Swear by culture freedom, I got more vice than Tubbs and Crockett. Now my boy Elroy, out to space like space's rockets. Truth be told, we was crushed from the cold. Niggas getting high off the dust from Sugar Hill. Now the truth gets sold with strippers on the pole. The light, just with rappers for the thrill. Get the rush from off one pill with flashes on the wheels. Singing white lines with my brothers and folding bills. Slinging white dimes when Uncle Joe wrote that bill. Around 94, fucking around with Hillary and Bill.
How can you justify what you've taken culturally? You love to lie to hide the truth. Do you really think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're
It was go and tell. Now y'all go and tell. Hop on the gram, look, show and tell. No ethics and no codes, just cut the pie a la mode. Spinning red whites now lights the block like a strobe. Behold, the pale horse that he rode. Here to bring death with guns to unload. Conspiracy to conspire, there's a theory on the wire. When Cohen is a priest whose doctrine is the liar. Here to rob the hood, I keep it tucked like the friar. Grew into a man following rappers I admire. No more b-boys in the cypher, no more DJs catching breaks. And everybody in the trap with 45s wrapped in tape. The culture has been raped, pimped out, and straight flooded. Just like the Bronx in the 70s, everything gutted. Trusted, rusted, busted and disgusted. We should've shut it down when Chuck said not to trust it.
How can you justify what you've taken culturally? You love to lie to hide the truth. Do you really think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're me? Think you're, oh yeah. Think that you can do what I think that you can do what I do. You think that you can do what I do. You think that you can do what I do. Tell me, do you think you're me? Tell me, do you think you're me? No, you ain't me.
Peace, big bro.
Peace, King. How was it, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm doing even better now that I got my brother on the show.
I just watched a few minutes of your show. I enjoy it, man. I think we should be so many more like this.
Oh man, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is the Hakeem Green Show. You know, I'm a child of hip hop culture, and I say culture. Yeah, we rap, but hip hop is more than rap. I always say hip hop is not what we do, it's how we do it. And when I say, you know, you are one of the most hip hop people I know, like, you know, you are the culture in so many ways, my guy. And I've never heard you bust a rap.
Oh, just like most cats, I was a rapper as a kid.
Is that right?
Yeah, if you look it up, it's I was coming home from the penitentiary. My brother Saladin, Seville, and my brother F. They were waiting for me to get out. We made a record. We cut a single, and
Really?
yeah. As a matter of fact, we used to rehearse in the same studio as Public Enemy, Spectrum Studios in Long Island.
And what year was this?
84. The name of the record, you can pull it up. It's called "It's Not Right" on Ebony Coast Records. And the name of our group was the Dynamic Force.
Wow, see?
My MC name was Master E.
It was Dynamic Force.
Mm-hmm.
Song is It's Not Right.
Yes, sir.
Dynamic Force, It's Not Right.
when I walk down the street. So big malicious guy just beating on the brick. And you know it's me, I don't even like. So if you wanna do it, go to box a ring and fight. Because it's not right. CYP said it's not right. And Kiss Seville said it's not right. FG said it's not right. Master E said it's not right. The 94 said it's not right. So that G in the Bible, it is known to be you can't have sex until you're married, but you don't care if you're wrong or right. You do it to someone you don't know all life, but then you catch your disease for not being aware because you were the one that didn't even care. Because it's not right. All this mess, it's not right. It's not right. It's not right.
Wow, that's a mind blower right there. Now, it's not right. I hear what y'all talking about. It sounds like it's right for the day, actually.
Yeah, right for then and now. You know, it was just something about, especially in those days, about just I think trying to keep something positive. So it was a party back then. It was coming out of that into the Run DMC phase in 84, 83.
Right.
Hip hop had exploded big in the white community due to songs like Planet Rock. Planet Rock was a multi-phase song. Not only was it a hip hop song, but Bam and So Sonic also created a whole nother genre called electro funk.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was 83, 84, it was spreading like wildfire across the world.
And you said you was just coming home and they
I
grabbed
was just
you.
home. I was just getting out of the penitentiary.
Wow, how long were you in that time?
I've been to the penitentiary twice. I went for 18 months the first time, and then I went back again for 7 years.
Wow, that's hard. That's hard. But to know that you came out and your mind was still on a certain, still like how I know you. That's what I hear. That's what I hear in that music.
Well, even when I was in the life that living the life of what we call the street life, I still had common sense. I wasn't the type of stick up kid who just did anything and everything. I never really sold drugs. Certain things I just didn't get involved in, even as a young cat. My thing was streets, and we were the gun toters. We was the violent boys.
Right. Now that era is what you talking about, like 70s, mid 70s, late 70s.
So I'm literally 60 right now. So 75, I was only 10 years old. So when hip hop was growing to its thing, it was really in my exact youth. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. And we lived that lifestyle. Lifestyle was somewhat different, but a lot of things are the same. Those pipelines are still there now as they were then. I left home at 12 years old. I went from a 12-year-old runaway to getting locked up a juvenile. And in those days, it was called DFY, Division for Youth, from non-secure facilities to secure facilities. And from that, the group homes to the penitentiary.
Wow. Yeah. So it's like, how I say that time, I'll be 57 in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Came up in Jersey. New York was always a center of attraction just because of the radio. So we're catching on to things vicariously through looking at the radio. Listening to the radio and then seeing certain stories that you might find in the news, right? So it's like when you think of hip hop culture in the birth of it, the times itself was very, very hectic, very, very hectic, and people had to navigate a certain way that is so much a part of life that you're not really thinking about it.
That's for sure.
We're creating this thing that is a reflection of the experiences we're going through.
Yes.
Right. So even when you look at gang culture and how prevalent it was in the beginning of hip hop, can you talk about that?
So I grew up in the Zulu Nation. I'm still a member of the Zulu Nation. I actually run some of the security forces. But when I grew up in Harlem and moved to the Bronx. So I was always what they call at that time, uptown was the Bronx and Harlem. So I moved back and forth. through the culture of hip hop, it, in my opinion, is how the gangs got squashed in a lot of ways. People don't realize that. Um, the gangs were starting to fade out in the mid 70s. You know, like I said, I grew up in the Zulu Nation. The Black Spades was probably the biggest gang ever in New York City. They were in every borough. They had chapters in every borough. Um, but even the Black Spades had an inkling of positivity. You know, they weren't, you know, what you would say just a brutal gang. They did, you know, do some things to protect their community, depending upon where they was at. You know, and look out for the people who fight against racism. You know, those things are realities of being in gang life. But at the same time, they was fighting one another, different other gangs, and hurting each other and beating each other. Uh, in the beginning of the Zulu Nation, it wasn't called the Zulu Nation; it was called the organization.
Mm.
And Africa Bambaataa, Ahmed, Mickey Benson, you know, quite a few other brothers, you know, they were the foundation of it. And they were literally out of Bronx River Projects.
Mm-hmm.
Bronx River Projects was a notoriously wild projects in the Bronx. And in Zulu Nation, as it grew and grew and grew, it grew to everywhere. It was in every borough, almost in every neighborhood, almost in every project. And one of the things that I don't think BAM gets enough credit for is the formulation of hip hop as a culture. Hip hop could have just been DJing and rapping, but when it took on the aspects of b-boying and what they call aerosol art, some people call it graffiti, it started to take on many other aspects, many other dimensions, from cultures, from clothing to the way you walk, the way you talk. So hip hop became this all-encompassing movement. And one of the people, to me, for me growing up and being around, was Bam, who really brought these elements together and spread it throughout the world. You know, when Run DMC got to France, there was already people in France talking about Les Zulu, and they weren't even sure if that was Zulu Nation from America or they, but it certainly it was. We had already been traveling around the world, you know, spreading the message of hip hop culture.
So, how old were you when you first came in contact with Zulu?
I joined the Zulu Nation in the summer of '78. I was already in a group home. Actually, I wasn't even in a group home. I was in a place called Mount Loretta on Staten
13,
Island.
14.
Yeah, I was in a place called Mount Loretta on Staten Island, and it was a huge place. And at that time, they had a lot of young kids that were getting, you know, they were in there with what they call PENS petitions, person that needed supervision. And so, you know, you had the criminal element in there, you had the, and it was co-ed. So can you imagine all these young kids, they was having babies, all you know, all kind of foolishness was going on up there.
Wow.
It's the same place. If you look at the Godfather, it's that same church. That church is on the grounds of Mount Loretta.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
it was an incredible experience as a young kid to be raised. You almost raising yourself.
Almost not. Absolutely.
Right. So my cousin, God bless his dad, his name was Malik. We call him Mr. Hines. He he used to come out there and get me. We used to go from Staten Island. We used to go to all the jams uptown. You know, the T Connection, the Savoy, the Ecstasy Garage. You know, that was the life. It was, you know, that was hip hop culture at that time. Was the underground clubs, and we were able to literally watch this thing grow from a very small jams in the park to literally taking over clubs in New York City. You know, and then it just grew at an incredible rate. Like we uptown in the Bronx, and the Zulu Nation was probably, in my opinion, and I may be biased, but we were the first ones to bring it downtown to Dance Interior, you know, Broadway RT, which is Broadway International. So we brought it from uptown and we brought it downtown. And as we brought it downtown, it spread throughout the city of New York, in Queens, Staten Island, you know, Bronx, Brooklyn, everywhere.
Right. So, you know, earlier I was saying how, in terms of coming from Jersey, being the age that I am, um, imagining like seeing the culture, seeing what we were all trying to embrace, right? There's like certain movies that just come into mind, right? One for me is The Warriors. Another is Wild Style. Star Wars, Beat Street. Like those 4 movies right there about everything that you're talking about right now, I can see scenes in my head from those movies that you don't know unless you were there. You don't know unless you lived it. But now if I'm trying to capture the feel and the what's going on in the world at the time, it's like Bam was Cyrus to me. Even though that's a fictitious movie, that's imaginary, that's not real life.
No, it's not, but it's very symbolic.
Right, was symbolic, right? And that happened really before I caught on to Zulu Nation, because I'm younger than you are. Let's see, the Warriors came out, what, 79, 80?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really start to learn about the Zulu Nation maybe until like 82, 83, 84.
Yeah, it was
I'm in Jersey. So
it was definitely out by that time. And I mean, so funny, we have plenty Zulus from Jersey. What city you from?
East Orange.
Okay, so most of the Zulus that were in Jersey were from Newark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we used to go out there and do jam. That was one thing about BAM, is that because of our affiliation, our unity, we didn't ever have to really worry about getting stuck up or anybody taking our equipment. That didn't happen to Bambaataa. That may have happened to everybody else, but it didn't happen to us. Because we would not allow that. We would go 10, 15 cars deep to any jam. We would go upstate New York. We go to Jersey. We go to D.C., Baltimore. We go anywhere and play. And we didn't have to worry. We didn't worry about that, because everywhere we went, we had members of our organization there, plus what we were bringing.
Right.
So it became like almost like a unity thing. We get to see the brothers from down here, and we get to run with the sisters for a minute. So it was a total different time for Black people in general. And like I say, people have all kinds of sayings about Spanish people and Black people, but in those days, amongst us anyway in the Zulu Nation, we could care less about that. We was about the music, we was about unity, and we didn't really make a distinction between Black or Spanish or anything like that. You rock with us, we rock with you.
Yeah, that's a whole weird conversation.
Yeah, I never really understood it.
I like, Puerto Ricans are Black people to me. They're a different version of Black people to me. That's how
they're Black people that can swim.
Black people that can swim,
mm-hmm.
Right? So, all right. So when you talk about Puerto Ricans in there, I like Africa Islam is half Black, half Puerto Rican. Am I right?
I believe so.
So what percentage of him was hip hop to me? Like, that's what people saying. Like,
yeah, he was all hip hop.
It was
we didn't care nothing about what race he was or any of that. We didn't care anything about that. His fame and his progress was because he was a dope DJ at that time. Nobody cared. That only became a question as of recent. That wasn't a question in those days.
Yeah.
If you go down to it, Bam is of Jamaican ancestry, Herc is of Jamaican ancestry, and so is Flash. They all of Jamaican ancestries, but they live here in America, so we all Black Americans.
Yeah, Theodore is Jamaican ancestry, right?
I'm not sure. I never even asked Theodore what his ancestry was. But the three founding fathers, as I know, and I would also add, if I were going to be honest, I would add probably Disco King Mario.
All right, I was going to ask you about that. That was one of my questions, because there's a lot of conversation around Disco King Mario, and like there's a history. People say 73 would hurt. People say, I guess with Bam, that would be 75, 76 with the creation of the Zulu Nation. Is that right?
No.
Or the organization?
The organization started in 74, if I'm not
74, okay.
74, but they were literally DJing a little bit before that. Herc and them with see, what people don't understand, there were some known DJs. There were street DJs like Pete DJ Jones and Cool D and all them from the Bronx. They was DJs, and they was playing a little bit of. It wasn't no rap music then. It wasn't no such thing as rap music. What you would play the breakdance. Breakdance and break beats evolved into what we knew as rap records and the whole culture of what we billion-dollar culture that we have now. In those days, it was just the sheer intelligence of young men being able to fix the turntables and the mixes to be able to play the most, I would say, percussion parts of the records and make them go back and forth and do it in continuous fashion. And that evolved into scratching and into all the things that we have today with the incredible things they can do on turntables.
Right.
A whole different era.
You just touched every time you drop a jewel, it like leads to another jewel.
It leads to another. It leads because it's all continuous.
All right, so because there's the conversation of does the culture start with the DJ or does it start with the breakdancer? Because they were talking about Jokers was breakdancing when it was just needle dropping, and it wasn't no back and forth. You just you do anything you could to dance to that part of the record.
Okay, so I was not a b-boy in any fashion. I would sit there and watch. I'm gonna be honest with you. In them days, man, I was violent in the streets. But I would go to the jams and I would watch them. I was amazed at some of the things they could do. I watched Crazy Legs, WAP and Mr. Wiggles and Wave. I watched them as a kid. And that evolved the same way DJing, the same way MCing, the same way the other parts evolved. That was the same thing. They all evolved through time. It's, the thing about human beings in general is that if you give us something and we stay with it, we'll make it better.
Yeah.
We will make it better. And that's the hip hop culture started a certain way and it just evolved into this magnetic thing that it's become today. Yeah, I just don't know. We don't know what it's going to evolve into. We don't know what the next phase of this that the Lord is going to give us.
Wow. Now, visually speaking, there's a theatrical piece that was on, I think, Netflix for a while. It's still up there, right?
You know what? I never saw it, and I went through it with them because they were doing a piece of it about the Zulus in the Bronx, and as the leader of the Zulu Warriors, I had to make sure that it was semi accurate. So, I had to threaten to sue them and all that.
It got serious like that. We talking about the Get Down, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, the Get Down. So I will say that they tried their best to make it as accurate as possible.
Right. I enjoyed it myself.
That's why you enjoyed it, because it was accurate.
Right, because it's theatrical, so I'm not expecting it to be exactly on point. But the people who are closest to the narrative, it's hip hop. So it's I already know everybody like, yo, you didn't say it this way. It should have went that way.
Yeah. So one thing I want to get on to say to everybody, your listeners, and to you too, is that hip hop is not a monolith. It has a lot to do your age. It has a lot to do where you grew up at, what block you grew up on, what area you were in, because different crews ran different areas. Different people with different stars in different areas. So you have everything is askew to where you were at that given time. So if you was from Bronx River, you thought everything that came out of Bronx River was the shit. But if you was from Grand Concourse, you thought everything from over there was the shit.
Right.
So we didn't have a universal understanding. We didn't get that universal understanding until the advent really of the Zulu nation spreading it all over the city of New York, and then it's spreading out to a nation, the whole United States. So that's what when you have these conversations, like I can't tell you who's my favorite rapper. I have to go by what era are you talking about? There's no way I can compare a rapper from 1975 to 78 to a cat from 83 to 85. Who was rapping as good as B and Big Daddy Kane? Who was rapping as good as that? Nobody was doing that. So I go by rappers in eras. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In the era I grew up, the undisputed star, who was a star even in the golden era, was Melly Mel. He was undisputedly the baddest thing that ever walked the earth when it came to rap when we were coming up. Then you had Grandmaster Caz, him as an individual, but as a group, when I was coming up, there was nothing like the Cold Crush Brothers.
Cold Crush Brothers.
Yeah, it was for me, it was the Cold Crush Brothers, Fantastic Romantic 5, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the Force MDs from Staten Island.
Cold Crush, you better give it up. You lost this battle.
Yo, some of those routines, if you
That
hear
shit
them
was
now,
crazy.
yeah, some of those routines, if you hear them now, you be like, these niggas was bananas.
Yo,
The effort in the time they took to learn these routines, to put them together. Force MDs was doing stuff that you never even heard of
as the
because
Force
they could
MCs,
really
mind
sing.
you. As the
Huh?
Force MCs.
Well, they were the Force MCs in the beginning years. They weren't even the group you know now. Stevie D was in the group, Mercury was in the group, and there was a female named Barbarella. She was in the group, and the DJ was either Dr. Rock or Dr. Freak, one of the two. But I grew up with them because they used to come to the home I was in, Mount Loretta. They used to come see me in the home.
Oh wow.
And they would do practicing, and we'd have the young people that was in the group, and we would sit there and watch them do their thing, their routine. It was just an incredible life. And every borough, even when they did, even like we look at rap in the terms of rap stars. In those days, it was more of DJ stars.
Mm-hmm.
So every borough had those DJs that was well known, and not only every borough, almost damn near every block.
Damn.
Who was on that block? Who was on that block hop? In Staten Island, it was Slick Watts, DJ Larry D, and Cream. They was killing. They was from Manus Harbor. So they used to do Harbor Day and jam on the weekends out in the streets in the harbor.
And this is what year are you talking about? These is late 70s, early 80s?
These are the late 70s.
Late 70s.
Yeah, late 70s. Because I left Mount Loretta. They kicked me off of Mount Loretta 1981. Around there, 80, 81, they kicked me off of Mount Loretta. And that's when I started being in group homes, then getting in trouble in the group homes, being on 42nd Street, the late 70s, early 80s. I damn near lived on 42nd Street.
Damn. Now I got a story about 42nd Street.
Oh, I got 1,000 of them.
I know you do. You ever notice anybody named Bright Eyes?
No, I don't know Bright Eyes. I don't know him, but I know of him. I've heard of him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see. I was 14, Christmas Eve, going to the Fun House. It's the first time I ever been to a club in New York City. Going with my cousins. They lived in Inglewood. We catch the bus across George Washington Bridge. She stopped off at Washington Heights, see a friend of hers in Washington Heights. We head to 42nd Street, and then there was this dude named Bright Eyes on 42nd that just kind of seemed like everything. He had a money green sheepskin on. He was probably maybe 18, 19, maybe 17, 18, 19. Green sheepskin.
So he was around my age at that time.
This is like 1984. Run DM's Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh did Lottie Dottie that night. I fucking walked in the Fun House. Didn't know how I got in because I was too young. I get in the Fun House. Red alerts and the fucking big clown face. Go across the floor. There's a cipher. There's a tall, linky kid with a Jerry curl with gazelles on doing the Steve Martin.
Got you.
I'm like, mine is blown. Later, he gets up on stage. That's Dougie Fresh. Him and Slick Rick do Lottie Dottie for the first time. Mine was blown. Now, fast forward. That was 84. I'm at college on Staten Island. I head over the city.
What you was going to, Susan? What school you was going to?
Wagner.
Susan B. Wagner.
Mm-hmm. No, not the high school.
Not the high school, right.
Right. So I'm going to Studio 54. I stop off at Playland. I'm playing a video game. I look over to the side, a nasty ass money green coat sitting in the phone booth. Bright Eyes. Just to give you
a visual.
4 year, like getting trapped on 42nd Street, getting trapped in the life, getting trapped in the world.
And it's so funny as you explained 42nd Street, 19. I was already past 42nd Street at that time.
84?
Yeah, 84. I had that was a thing of the past for me, 42nd Street.
Wow.
42nd Street for me was 79, 80, maybe a little bit of 81. But I had already passed 42nd Street, the criminality of being on the deuce and being in the karate shows and all that stuff. I had been past that. In 84, I came home from prison in the summer of 84. All I could think about is how I was going to try to stay out of jail at that time, and I needed to be involved in this rap music.
Mm,
That's what I came home thinking about.
that's crazy. Yeah, sir. The culture's born out of some mean situations, bro. Mean
Yeah.
situations.
Oh yeah, it's like anything though. It's no different than any other culture around the world, man. We're not immune to the good, and we're not immune to the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, so how many records did you put out with .NET?
The only single we ever put out was that single,
Mm-hmm.
but we were on other people's albums. Like if you go to Bam did an album called We Are Family.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Saladin did a song on there with him called I think the name was called Funky. So it was like from being in rap music and doing that stuff and being in the studios, when Soul Sonic was recording, Planet Rock and looking for the perfect beat. Like you look at a song like Looking for the Perfect Beat, you just get caught up in the music. If you ever listen to the lyrics of that song, it was revolutionary for its time.
Oh, absolutely. I study that
You
song.
right. You a dude that study
Yeah,
lyrics.
Renegades
So
of Funk, of course, as
yeah,
well. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah,
Looking for the perfect beat.
yeah.
Tom
Studios
Paine.
of
I gotta
music
hit
and
mine.
oh yeah, like exactly. I'm sorry, I made you cut your
No,
wisdom.
no, I'm the singer. You think Chief Sitting Bull. Like no one was dropping that type of intellect in those days. You know, talking about our history and our struggle in the music, because everybody in those days were mostly in tune with the beats.
Mhm.
The lyrics weren't they were important, but they weren't that important as they became later on in the golden era. You
Yeah, but
know,
even with a back to Melly Mel with a song like The Message.
oh, it was. That's why I say what I say about him,
Yeah,
because he was so far ahead of his time. When they was going hip hop, Scooby Doo, he's talking about a child is born with no state of mind, blind to the ways of man. We thought that was prophetic.
yeah. The B
You know,
Street Anthem is incredible as well.
come on, he made some incredible songs. King Heroin. Um, I mean, there was so many even groups that y'all don't know nothing about. Like people don't really talk about like Funky Four Plus One More,
Yes.
with Shaw Rock or the Cosmic Force with Lisa Lee. No one really talks about that because the people that were a part of that era, most of them are working hard and trying to survive today. They don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You're 50, 55, 60, 65. Some of them are pushing 70
Grandparents,
now. I
grandparents,
have
great
to eat.
grandparents.
I got to take care of my grandkids, and we went through a hell of a phase through the crack epidemic. That was a nasty, nasty phase that we went through as a people.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Larry Davis. Were you around for Larry Davis?
Yeah, I can. Adam. Yeah, I know.
You said Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't know he had another name other than
Yeah, that was his Muslim.
Hakeem Abdul, right? He changed it to Hakeem Abdul. Abdul
Abdul.
or
Yeah, Hakim
Hakeem.
Abdul Adam. Yeah, that was his Muslim name.
Gotcha.
So one of my close friends, he's actually what do they call him now? They call him the homeless hero. If you ever look him up, he's the guy who's be promoting for homelessness and trying to get people job. That was his right hand man. We all grew up in the Zulu Nation together.
Hmm.
He's the one who put together the whole idea of William Kunstler and Cody and all the attorneys. He's the one who got him all that stuff to try to save him.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was
that was
that was an incredible thing. I still don't understand why they have not made a movie that is
on Larry
because you can tell.
Davis.
Yeah, you can tell that movie from so many different angles.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I think it would be an incredible movie,
Yeah.
especially in these days and times.
Well, maybe you need to write it.
Oh, he's written it already. It's just that,
Really?
yeah, he's done it. He's done the writers thing and everything with it. He just can't find the right home for it.
Man, that story right there.
That story is incredible, and I don't know anyone who would be better at telling the story because he was right there behind the scenes.
Hmm. Wow. Well, we're gonna let the wheel turn on that one.
Yeah, if you know somebody, let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, how do you go from being, MC, Master E,
Yeah, that was my name. Master dash to the E.
Yeah, to head of security for the Universal Zulu Nation and
Well,
holding
even when I
down.
was a rapper, I was still in the Zulu Nation. That whole time, but everybody in my crew was in the Zulu Nation,
Right, but
and
being the head security, like you head.
so as a young cat, it so the structure when we were younger, it wasn't even called Zulu Warriors. It's called Zulu Warriors now, but in those days it was called Shaka Zulu. And those are the days when I met you, when me and Saladin and Bo and Sugar Ray and all of us was running around together. It's anybody that knows anything about the history, they'll tell you them was the cats in the Bronx.
Yeah,
They was the valiant boys, and they put in a lot of that ugly street work, which I don't condone to this day, because it was nothing right about what we were doing. So I'm not the one to glorify anything that may have been past, and I ask Allah to forgive me and anything that I did wrong and any hurt that I did to anyone, and that they bless me with doing right to people now and making amends for those sins. So, and it just became an organization. I just, provided security in a general sense for the organization when we did things, and I just kept, I stayed at it and just keep moving along like anything else. You just progress, as you move forward.
yeah, but from you know, I guess having a security team holding down a party in the Bronx versus having a security team that's holding down some of the biggest artists in the world. You're in multiple states, multiple cities. You're doing security worldwide. It's not just like
No,
you
it's
very,
not
very
just
modest about what you just said.
right, brother. I grew and I developed and I took the job seriously. I went to school. I learned about what it took to really to be a security agent, and there's so many different facets of security. Security doing a concert and doing a retail store is two different ways, two different worlds. So as I learned about the many different facets of security. Uh, my favorite probably is PPP, personal protection agent. Those are like the Secret Service. So you start to learn, and that's what I learned for. I went and got in the books, and I started to learn what was the Secret Service in America was about. And honestly, I'm gonna be 100% with you. I learned, what the Israeli Secret Service is about, because those are not big men by and large, but they are highly, highly trained, and they're under pressure all the time. So when you start to learn about these different security organizations around the world, I started to implement the rules and regulations to it, and you just move forward. And that's what I've done. I got with a couple of brothers who started a legal company, and we moved forward. And about 12, more than that now, 2011, 2010, I started Zulu Warriors, and we started to grow. And one of the main things for me was, honestly, I was like, yo, we got to do a little less talking, and we got to do a little bit more working,
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, man, you want loyalty, you got to help somebody pay their rent, pay a cable bill, keep them lights on. So I thought I could talk you to death, but I need to be able to give you a job. And that's my whole philosophy behind Zulu Warriors Entertainment Services, is to be able to provide jobs to men and women, uh, anybody. I don't care if you're in Zulu Nation or not.
Mhm.
I need to be helping you get a job to work.
Nice. Yeah.
So I need to give you the training to get you there. So when someone hires us, they can take us back again and be like, yo, I love the way those people did their job.
Right. So now that being a specialized training, you know, I guess growing out of what you learned in the Zulu Nation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because even with the Universal Zulu Nation in the '80s, there was order, there was discipline, there was protocol,
Yes.
there's a certain level of training that you probably had to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
through.
So when the Zulu Nation first started, and brothers don't like me to say this, it wasn't no peace kumbaya stuff going on.
Mm.
That's nonsense. It was cats fighting and shooting and all kind of foolishness was going on. But like everything else, most things anyway, growth and development. You had smarter men joining, you had people going to school, and you had men in leadership position who wanted to be better than they had been. So it grew and it developed into what it developed into worldwide. And the leadership was really trying its best to pull it far out of that whole gang mentality. Because gang culture is a mentality.
Yeah. When you say gang culture is a mentality, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people, I guess, they look at things and they don't quite understand because they're not in that position, right?
Right. They didn't live through it. They didn't walk through it. They don't. They have an understanding, but the understanding is from the outside looking in, and it doesn't really give you a true understanding.
Yeah. I just want to real briefly give a shout out to a Zulu warrior that we recently lost.
Oh, brother Arik,
Yeah.
beautiful brother too, man.
Yeah. I used to promote Club Envy, Club Cheetahs.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
Mm-hmm.
he's been out of the tunnel like, weekly for years. And this brother was always extremely professional, righteous, doing security in some of the roughest environments, but always treated everybody with respect and humility.
Yep. He was always a fair brother. He wasn't never trying to be too hard and too tough.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, that was heavy when I saw that we lost him. Condolences to his family. Even off social media, we stay connected, and he would always send me some positive words of encouragement,
Mm-hmm.
always liking everything. So the brother's like, yeah, yeah, man. So in terms of the many artists that you've held down, can you give us some examples of the level of artistry you've had to secure?
Probably the one I'm most known for is I started as the head of security for Tribe Called Quest,
Hmm.
but I've done Latifah. I was very God bless the dead, brother D'Angelo. I was very close with brother D'Angelo.
Yeah,
Um,
rest in
Ice
peace.
T, De La, almost everybody that was somebody in that '90s, early 2000. I had some connection to them in some way. I maybe didn't work for them every single time they went on the road, but plenty times I was out on the road with them.
Yeah,
Different tours. I can't even tell you how many tours I've been on, from Lollapalooza to Smoking Grooves to you know I've had the option of being all over America, um, touring, and I learned a lot in those years. Those were the foundation years when you really learn how to do this as a professional.
hmm yeah. I know I've seen you on a bunch of tours.
Hmm.
I know my I don't have as many laminates as you have. I know you got like an insurmountable, infinite amount of laminates if you keep them.
No, you know what? I did not keep them until later years. But even the ones I've had over the last 10 years, I still got a bunch of those. But imagine if I would have kept all the ones from the 90s, you
Lord,
know, even the 80s, the different shows that we did. Because, laminates were even given out in those days in the 80s.
yeah.
So it's been a wonderful experience. I thank Allah for allowing me to experience this and to go through it and to give back. My thing, one of the biggest things to me is my character, is I want to give back to our community, you know. And I think sometimes when we get to be our age, a lot of times we don't want to deal with the young people because we're too busy taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
In the sense that I don't want to deal with these young crazy boys. That's what my mind says. But don't I have an obligation to try to keep them or try to guide them to the right lane? It's just as I wish somebody would have guided me to the right lane. So that's how I look at, uh, even when I was in prison. In prison, I ran the programs for young people that were coming in and learning. And I didn't run a program like Scared Straight. That was not my thing.
Hmm.
I told the story how I saw the story, and I see the story is mass majority of you dudes going to get in here and come out. So I'm not thinking about what's going to happen to you while you're in jail, because most of the people who are engaging in those illicit activities is because they want to. You know, most of the time, for the most of the time, you can find help. Nobody's gonna rape you. I mean, that happens, but that's people who playing on those sides of the fence. By and large, like if out in Attica, for instance, somebody tried to rape somebody, you just go to the Muslim community. They wasn't allowing that to happen. You wasn't taking nobody by force. That wasn't going on. And those who that happened to was dudes who let themselves be played out, so to speak. But I feel like my character, my personal constitution is really about trying to save young people who don't have any guidance. That's where I'm at with it. Young men and young women. Because if you look at the last 20 years, women in prison has exploded.
Yeah.
And no one's really talking about it. No one's saying anything. And when you have women in prison and that rank has exploded, who is raising the babies? You got to think about who is raising these children.
Yeah.
And the government, even today, they think about that. Why do you think close to 300,000 black women have lost their jobs? A lot of these black women were the sole providers of their family. Now, who's going to take care of these children?
Well, let me ask you this question. So, leading up to Trump and his administration.
Well, we jumping.
Yeah, we jumping. We jumping.
We all over the planet right now.
Yeah, we it's good though. It's
yes,
good.
Yes,
it's good.
It needs to be said. Some of these things need to be said.
Right. We saw a lot of our people, basically co-sign an agenda, knowingly or unknowingly co-sign an agenda that's led us to where we are right now. And for me, it was always loud and clear where we were going. It was no disguise on it. They weren't trying to hide it at all. Like organization is needed right now on a lot of levels. And
always has been and always will be.
Always has been and always will be. So it's like you call them for your own extermination. I said that earlier in the earlier clips, how we feed our own extermination. But how what is that about to you? Where so many of our people, I guess, disillusioned or not, co-sign where we're at right now.
Street foolishness. Believing that the streets and what people are saying in the streets, we have to attack this thing with all our minds, all our intellectual possibilities. One thing I'm not into letting dummies lead me. If a dude is not at least as smart as I am, intellectually capable, you're not leading me. And that's the problem. Like you, for instance, these gangs around America, they could be an incredible positive force. But the leadership of most of them are too caught up in street life. Just think about it. The Bloods, the Crips, the BDs and the GDs and all these things, they command numbers. What if the leadership was the leadership of growth and positivity and progressive thinking? Can you imagine?
Yeah. Well,
can you imagine?
Well, leadership in a lot of places is faulty.
I have to agree with you 100% on that. I have to be, if you lead by the gun, that's what you're gonna get, the gun.
Right. And it's like lack of leadership, standing on principle. I'm gonna keep bigging this brother up, but Glasses Malone, brilliant brother. Standing up to Aiden Ross and saying that you're just not gonna disrespect this black woman. And I've been following, the brother for a minute on the different podcasts. Of course, he's from LA. And I just like the fact that he's like, nah, enough is enough. We're going to draw a line. You're not going to be calling this woman out her name. We're not taking the disrespect. And, people being right and exact in order to stand up, because everybody that stand up is not right and exact, so.
That is so true.
Yeah. So there's an elephant in the room. I don't know if we could discuss.
Sure, we could discuss. I might not go answer every single question in depth.
No, it's not going to be many.
Yeah, okay.
It's not going to be. We're not even going to play that game. But in terms of leadership and the Universal Zulu Nation being such a powerful, impactful force in hip hop culture. The allegations are very disturbing and disappointing. And it's like, how much of that is the Universal Zulu Nation, and how much is that an individual? Where does those 2 points meet?
So the allegations being what they are, my question is, every organization on the planet Earth have had people that were alleged to have done the same thing that he was alleged. But there was never any question about stopping the organizations from existing. Police Department of New York City has had many people alleged to do the same thing. The NAACP, the John Birch Society, every single one of these organizations have had members that have been alleged to do the same thing. One of the things that I think that we don't do is that we don't take our problems to the back and solve them outside of the view of everybody. That's one of the things. We destroy our own, right? And that's not saying anybody's guilty or not guilty. But all I can say in his behalf is this, is that I've known him since I was 13, 14 years old. The man has never done anything even approaching disrespect to me. Not never. All I know, my years of knowing him is, I've never known anyone to spend so much of their own wealth that could have made them live comfortably for many, many years of their lives on keeping something else afloat. I've watched him pay people's rent who were being evicted. I've watched him feed people's family who had no money and their kids were not eating. So my respect for him is of a man who was about helping his community, and we know what he taught. We know what he preached. Is as far as the elements of hip hop culture. So we know what that is. So I don't know him in any way of these allegations, and I think I will end that by saying I don't see anyone that is saying anything about he ever kicked their door in or he climbed through their window. Everyone I see is saying that they went to him. So and I think a lot of it is to frame him as a monster. I don't know if he's gay. I would say that he's not, but I don't know if he's gay or not. But I would say this is that the man that I know never would force anybody to do anything against their will. I just don't know that about him. Actually, for me, he's the exact opposite type of person.
Yeah. Fair.
Now, people want to get, they want to get deeper into the conversation and all that. I just don't know it, and I'm not going to allow myself to be pushed into a corner where this have to be on my back. These are questions that people, and I don't know why they don't do. Ask him.
Yeah, I've been heckled because of my connection to KRS-One and what Chris said on the Drink Champs.
Oh,
so
man.
I was being heckled. I'm like, why are you telling me? Won't you go tell him?
Tell him that.
Right. Bam. Go tell Bam. I want to see you tell Bam. I want you to put it on camera. You going up to Bam and asking Bam these questions.
But a lot of this is just people trying to find a way to make money. That's what a lot of it is. It's just, to me, a lot of it is to make money. Because whatever your allegations are, especially if you consider yourself some type of street gangster and you will get down and you do all this, go handle your business.
Yeah. And at the same time, and this is just me talking, I'm representing my own opinions. At some point, I would like to see Bam speak up for himself.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. But I don't know what his lawyers are telling him, because a lot of times lawyers tell you shut the fuck.
Yeah,
like, lawyers tell you.
Absolutely.
See, I've been in that life, like
absolutely,
doing guns and all that stuff, and the lawyers will tell you shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up, no doubt.
Before you put your right.
Absolutely.
So I don't.
I can't say that what I would do if I was in that position.
Right.
I would never be in that position.
Right. But you don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. I would just hate to have to defend my name or something like that. That's
Yes.
something that's like,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I don't like.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
In terms of someone's sexuality, their personal choices.
Yeah,
I don't judge people on that. So
what I have to say about that, just in closing about that situation, no matter what it may be, you still are not allowed to take away that person's history. So what has been done in the hip hop culture as of late is that they're really trying to write the contribution of Africa Bambaataa in the Zulu Nation out of it. And that's where I bang heads with a lot of people.
Right. But
go ahead.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. And that's, you can't write the Zulu Nation out. You can't write Bam out. But there's always going to be the elephant in the room.
Yeah, it's going to
always going to be the stigma. The what if is always going to be around, right?
Yes.
And there's the organization, there's the individual.
Right.
And there's
the organization has not been, no one has claimed that the organization did anything wrong. It's guilt by a so-called association. Right. The organization is not guilty of anything.
Right. Yes.
You know, the organization did what it did for many years, which was change people's lives. People that were in the street culture, we grew up, we became better human beings, we became better people. We went on to other things. Some had regular jobs, some went to the Nation of Islam, all kind of things. You know, the leader of the New York City Nation of Islam is a former Zulu that I grew up with. Ever Loving Kid Dust. That's Arthur 4X.
My brother. I was never a part of a chapter, but of course I have a long history with Zulu.
Yes, you have. You know, when I met you outside in videos. Yeah,
right.
You know, that's the one thing I love about KRS-One. Right. He is a dude who speaks his mind. Some people be like, "Oh, Chris is he's too arrogant. He's too this. He's too that." He speaks his mind. And I love that, right? And I love that about him. And I've had arguments with him myself. Well, I've said, "Man, fuck that." I'm not
it's just, you know, like it's children. And when talking about children, you don't ever want to come off like you can be like. No, and I get the principle you standing on. I totally understand the principle you standing on. Mm-hmm. People not gonna hear that. People gonna hear "fuck them kids," even though that's not what you're saying. That's
not what you're saying. Exactly.
That's not what you're saying.
But if you don't know how to say a thing, that's how they're gonna take it.
Yeah. When somebody's your friend, if they truly your friend, do you turn your back on your friend? If they truly your friend, do you turn your back on your friend? Is your personal relationship with your friend greater than public allegations?
Like, sometimes it is, and sometimes it ain't. That's the reality of it, brother. That's the reality. I see sometimes it is. And, you know, this is a wonderful conversation that we're having. And it's probably, you know, more than one. You know, we can probably have this conversation 3-4 times.
Yeah, we good. We good. Like, I know just the point where I was going with it is that I have communication and contact with many Zulu brothers, and I've always been treated with ultimate respect by my brothers and my queens. You know, so you know, like I've seen nothing but respect, upliftment of our people. You know, discipline. That's what I see.
Men and women with their head held high, trying to do something positive to uplift our people.
Yeah,
that's what we've always been about. That's what we've always been about. And you know, of course, we have some problems with this, you know, but life is
life is gonna life.
Life is gonna be lived. You know, we got you know, tell myself all the time, man, I'm 60 years old. I'm glad to be here. So many people that I know are not here anymore. You know, some given to the street life, some just to regular illness. You know, all I can be is thankful for every day and try to do better than I did yesterday.
Yeah,
that's what about. People tell me all the time, Muhammad, you should start a podcast. I'm like, I'm not interested in doing that because that requires a certain amount of effort if you're going to do it well, and I'm not going to do it every single day and do everything that it takes to make that work.
Yeah.
But I'll come on the cast every now and again.
I appreciate you.
And plus,
Absolutely.
when you in these things, the desire for most of the people, I picked you for a certain reason. You have no desire to put me in a situation when you say, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have no desire to do that to me. I'm your brother, you my brother. I don't got no desire to do that to you. Your desire is, what can we talk about this culture that's going to help us as a people uplift
Understanding.
ourselves?
That's it. That's the
That's
purpose of
your
this.
desire.
Is understanding.
Right.
We can't condemn, we can't convict, we can't do none of that. All
We
we do
can't
is
do none of that. But we
live our
can do.
lives and be better than we were.
That's right. And we can
Understanding,
teach.
understanding is key.
That's right. And we can teach people. We can do the history. And like I said, I was there, as a young cat. I was raised in it. I know about it. And I always had a propensity to really try to understand what I was. And I'm quick to say to people, it's not monolithic. What I'm telling you is just what my experience is based on where I was raised and the movement I did. But I will tell you that I have a very thorough experience of this culture.
Yeah.
More than most, because I was intellectually astute enough to take heed to what was going on. I still can remember some of the lessons that were taught in Bronx River Center. We was kids and we was coming in Bronx. You couldn't even come in Bronx River. Dudes that say things now, very cavalier.
So
they would not even said those things in those days. Because somebody would have got the white meat involved. So everybody in the last few years, it's all kind of different stories popping up because everybody wants to be somebody. That's the nature of human beings. And you may have been something, but it was a very small chip on a giant block.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. Hey, yo, brother, I'm not saying what you're saying is untrue or is not true. I'm just saying it had no bearing on me. Because this is what we were doing. And what you were doing was in no comparison to what we was doing. You wouldn't even come on our block. As a matter of fact, I remember, you had to get Band's permission for you to even come in Bronx River. That's how wild it was in Bronx River. You couldn't just come in there and see nobody, especially do no show. None of that was going on. Not saying it was right or wrong. Each person should be free to go wherever they want to go. But that was the reality of that.
That's
era.
the reality. That's right.
That's the reality of that.
I try to set the show up with context because of
there you go. You got the right word. Set it up with context. What was going on in 1978? What was going on in 1979? Was the people in general thinking like that? Probably not. You're trying to apply a philosophy or a lifestyle of 30, 40 years later on something of this era, and it was not the norm of that time. So that's what you got to use your mind. This requires a lot of what we're doing and that's not done. It requires what you call intellectual sophistication. You can't look at it as a child or a baby like. You got to think it through. You got to think. You got to understand who was who, what was what. You know what I'm saying? And it's so many groups that nobody don't even say nothing about. That this was a real movement in those days.
Yeah.
So now, many have fallen to the wayside that nobody will ever mention.
Right. So because I know you said an hour and we over, and it's something I just want to do.
I can talk to you for a few more minutes. I'm enjoying myself.
Good. So I said earlier the visual of the culture, early days, what it was, and I named some movies. I said Wild Style, B Street, Star Wars, and The Warriors. Right? Each one is its own timepiece, right? Reflecting an era of hip hop, right? So for me, it's like when I look at The Warriors, it's like it's a flash into gang culture in New York, even though it's it's fiction, it's glamorized, it ain't like what was really happening. Just the idea of it, and this trying to unite the gangs, right? Then I get to a Wild Style, which is like on the ground view of the culture at that time.
Remember, at that time, it had progressed some.
Right.
Because if you look at it,
like, Warriors ain't even really a hip hop movie. I just use it as a reference, like right before it.
That wasn't no hip hop movie.
That wasn't a hip hop movie, but it's like what New York was right before hip hop took off.
We claim it. We have taken it as ours because we know that was the era that led into this incredible movement.
Right. And that's why I said, like, Cyrus represented Bam to me. The riffs was the Zulu Nation
to most people.
Right. So
to most people that understand New York City of that era, that's exactly what it was. The Warriors, Cyrus and their movement was the big one, and then you had all these hundreds of little ones running around doing what they do to survive.
Now, I'm gonna throw another one at you, just to show you where it started for me. Right, it really started for me at 8 years old with the education of Sonny Carson. My Aunt Diane took me to go see at Essex County College back.
That was the Jolly Stompers in Brooklyn.
The Jolly Stompers, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So I got that, like, I'm a Jersey dude. I'm East Orange, New Jersey. Like, but New York is this thing of my imagination that, it's education of Sonny Carson. Then it's the Warriors, the gangs, right? But the gangs, the resolution of the gangs, and then you see Wild Star, you see this artistic, whether it was rapping, breakdancing, graffiti art, but it's from a bird's eye view. So like you're walking with these characters, Lee Keonyas and Lady Pink and Busy B and Fab Five Freddy, and you see the Cold Crush at the basketball court. Them niggas is battling. Who's that? They was battling Fantastic. Who the Cold Crush battle in Wild Style on the basketball court?
Fantastic Momentum 5.
There you go, Fantastic Five. Right. So they got that battle. Right, so you seeing this cultural thing before it's really not even called hip hop at this point. It's just
no. You're right. Maybe it was called hip hop then, but it was in a very, very early stages.
Right? And then you get to B Street, which is like the full blown out explosion.
Oh, that's when it was exceeding heavily into the mainstream consciousness of the world.
Yeah, Harry Belafonte, big shout out, rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Good man.
And I missed Star Wars, but that was even big shout out to K Slay. That was like really, the nitty gritty of what the shit is. Like, we're gonna really get into it. The Wild Style was like more of a story. This was like, no, this is what this shit is. We're gonna follow these people around who are actually putting up pieces, living a life and then anyway. So on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, what would you rank each movie? And we'll just start Education of Sonny Carson.
What am I ranking them about? About what they were supposed to be about?
The impact on the culture.
Education of Sonny Carson had an impact on Black culture. I didn't see that as too much hip hop orientated, but it was Black, and it showed me my people on screen when I hadn't seen many great portrayals of our folk.
Right.
Each one affected me in different ways. Say like the one with Fantastic and Cold Crush, that affected me because I was just so happy. I was just so happy to see somebody cared enough about hip hop to do something with it. And it reminded me of those, like, to me, that was the era of the greatest battles. MCs after that didn't really do too much battling. They really battled each other in those days. Busy B against Kumo D, and praise be to God, I happened to be at a lot of those shows, and I feel that those are situations in my life that were climactic moments of incredible experience. I'm never going to live that again, and no one else is, because you're not going to ever be able to make it happen again. So I think B Street, to me, B Street was the glamour. B Street represented, woo, we there, baby.
Right.
We there, baby. I understood. So, it's so many good things that I was taught in that era. For instance, a lot of people used to make fun of Biggs and Pow Wow and Globe And then because they would wear these costumes, but they wore them, it was a reason. Because when they went on the road and the people they were on the road with, they gave these incredible shows. You cannot come out with the Gap band and the Daz band with no regular jeans on, because you'll be looking like a stupid folio. So they was trying to compete with the era and the artists who were doing their thing in that era.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that, because you know, we like to clown the young generation about their fashion. And they go, yeah, but in the 70s, y'all was looking like this. And they'll show you Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 with the outfits trying to clown, and you just gave context.
Yes, but there's a big difference. There's a big difference, young man.
Yes.
The difference is that's what they was wearing on stage. You wear it all the time.
Yeah. It was
showmanship.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be lifted up and respected, not made fun of. If what you was doing was through showmanship, and I would do the same for you, lift you up and respect it. That's what they do for the showmanship today.
It sounds good, but if you got jokes, I got jokes right back at you.
Of course we do.
What these kids wearing? What are you talking about? What you wearing?
Yeah, and you, like you said, they was wearing some. In those days we was calling some funky stuff.
Yeah,
but they weren't the only ones. Why would they be in just any different than Sly and the Family Stone and George Clinton in Parliament? They was
it was
a different genre of music.
When you get to Run DMC, the page got turned. But But even I mean, the Treacherous 3 was on some regular. They wasn't wearing big costumes.
The Treacherous 3 was leather suits.
Man, it was.
Yeah, they was wearing the leather suits. Everybody had their particular style, but they was trying to fit in. But you got to understand, Bambi was on a high level dealing with shows with big time
concert coliseums.
Right, they was doing them type of shows.
Yeah,
they didn't have to compete with people who look like that, and they paid top dollar to see these people. They didn't want to see people in regular clothing. They wanted to see a show. They wanted to see something like you. I don't care what you said. You ain't going out on no stage with the Commodores looking like a regular cat.
Damn. That preach. That's good context right there. So when I get into my arguments with the young Jews, they be like, all right, OG, explain this. And I got ammunition.
You gotta do the study. You gotta have mature intellect, and because there's a clear, complete argument with this. Whether you liked it or you did, that's fine. That's your preference. But there is a clear argument that is truly understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. So we didn't get a chance to. We were talking earlier about different blocks and different areas in New York City that was bumping back in the late 70s, early 80s, right? And my boy Ron Lawrence, the Amin Ra, out from Queens. He's big producer. He did Hypnotize for Biggie, where I'm from, for Jay-Z. He's that guy. He did a documentary called The Founding Fathers. It was narrated by Chuck D and Ralph McDaniels. And they get into the Queens influence on hip hop culture. And then, of course, there's a Brooklyn contingency with DJ Flowers and everybody kind of saying, well, we was doing hip hop here, we was doing hip hop there. What was different in that narrative, and what makes Bronx the
I think I saw that particular film on YouTube. My thing with that is, and I'm lucky enough, I lived in Queens. All right,
family. It's all good.
Right. My family moved from Harlem in 1975, and they moved to St. Albans, Queens.
Wow.
So we lived right off of Farmers and Linden.
Right.
So I'd happened to know a few cats and grew up in this class. And plus, I was the type of dude, my crew wasn't just known where we were from. We were known everywhere. So you had a lot of crews that they had this gangsterism, but it was in their own neighborhood. My lifestyle was a lifestyle where I knew all the gangsters in every borough. Either the penitentiary, running across them on 42nd Street, the different group homes. Because the group homes, you got kids from everywhere. I grew up with all these different dudes who later on became named, lack of a better word, gangsters in their neighborhood.
Wow.
So I understand when these people, everyone wants to take a claim, but everybody want a little slice of hip hop. Everybody need a little slice of that hip hop life. You know what I'm saying? But I was in Queens, and me, Seville, Apache, my brother FG Saladin, we were the dudes who brought the Zulu Nation to Queens. And I'm gonna tell you a little story about how there was a DJ's name. Do you remember DJ Baby J from USA on Rock on what was it?
No, I was a little boy in Jersey. I don't know that.
So they had a spot. They had a spot in Queens called USA Roller Skating Rink, and the known DJ there was DJ Baby J. And I went there one weekend, and of course we acting a fool. We looking, we the Bronx style in Queens. You could pick us out like a giant grape. And we in there, and I see these dudes. They in the back about 20 deep. They got these nice sweaters on, but they all got Z's on their sweater. I'm like, yo, that's kind of fly. What's that? So I would make my way over to him. I'm telling him, yo, what that Z stand for? What's that about? He's like, yo, we Zulus. I'm like, what? Niggas is not no Zulus.
Nigga, shut it down.
I was like, your niggas is not no Zulus. Where are y'all from and who are y'all? And then I had it. His name is Theophilus. His government name is Theophilus. His name is Ahmed now. He's another Muslim brother. And we chopped it up, man. And that is how we started the first chapter off of Springfield Boulevard in Laurelton, Queens.
Nice.
We took them all under the wing. I rocked with them dudes for him, Dallas. Yo, so many good brothers, and we exploded that. And we had hard times in Queens because Queens was coming out of the Seven Crown phases, more into the 5 percenters. Because the Zulu Nation and 5 percenters in the days didn't get along at all.
No,
it was ugly sometimes.
Wow.
So, oh man, we had plenty fights with them. Mount Morris Park. I don't even want to get into some of these classic bro throwdowns we had. Like real gang fights.
Wow.
And these brothers, man, we started the Zulu Nation in Queens, and it grew until we had this chapter. And the chapter, if you do any of your searching in Queens and you start talking, you talk about there was a chapter called Boom Bash.
Boom Bash.
And these niggas was boom bashing. They was all over Queens, but they was mostly off of like Hollis, Jamaica. And man, these boys was violent. And we used to, not me, because I was lit at that time. I think I was a vice chapter leader. I was the vice president of a chapter. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really get into a lot of fighting back then because people at that time, they were very protective of me. Yeah. And man, they used to be going at it. It was a high school on what was the name of that high school? And I think a brother might have getting killed at a fight at the school. Wow. And boy, that thing, it turned into something awful. Like I said, man, there was so many good times, but there were some bad times too.
Yeah. We did a very good job in detailing the bad times, in terms of the environment and the social conditions, the lack of investment. We didn't talk about specifically the lack of investment from the city, social programs, all that. Yeah. Say it again.
The Bronx was absolutely ugly. You know what the Bronx remind me of in the 70s? I watched this documentary about, and I try to be well versed. I watched this documentary about the early 80s about the war between Hezbollah and the Maronites in Lebanon. Mm-hmm. That's what the Bronx remind me of. Bombed out buildings looking like dudes had shot giant shells in it. I remember going to visit broads that lived in these buildings that they were not really fit to be lived in. But I'm going up the stairs and the whole staircase is blown off. I got to jump from one part of the staircase to the other part of the staircase to make it to where they live at.
People don't like.
If you were not there, it's difficult to understand.
It's understand how you have an environment that's living like well below the poverty line. That's comparable to a war-torn.
That's what I wanted you to understand. Like, yo, this stuff look like we in a war-torn area. Yeah. And then it kind of is because shooting and robbing is going all over the place.
Yeah, not to mention the drug addiction, the prostitution, the
All of that.
was all
All
of
of
that.
that.
Like, and then you got these building owners who are torching their properties for the insurance money.
They
Uh,
trying to get out.
yeah, trying to get out. You got the residents where they left to just pick up the ashes and live in the ashes if they
And
can.
live in the ashes. That's exactly the best way you could put that. Living in the ashes of the shell of burnt out building. People lived in that.
Yeah,
People
yeah, for
lived in
sure.
that, bro.
Yeah, and the culture for a big reason was born out of that. Like that
Born
forced
out
us,
of
I
that,
guess.
and a part of that I call God granting us something to save us because of necessity.
Yeah, yeah.
Who would have ever thought that we would? That's my sadness. A lot of that is my sadness, which is probably going to lead us right into another conversation. How other people got control of this culture because God gave it to us as a way to help us, to lead us out of this state of degradation. Then it became something, and then for the most part, and some of it to me is racism, some of it is not racism. But you have intellectually and financially taken advantage of us almost from the very beginning.
No, absolutely from the very beginning. From
Yeah.
from from
Well,
before
I don't say
beginning
from the
because
very beginning, because in the very beginning you wasn't a part of it. We ain't cared nothing about what you thought in the beginning. But as soon as it became a viable economic resource, boy, you put the foot on our neck.
right. So
Mm-hmm.
I always like to have this conversation, right? Bob Law and Davy D, big shout out to them, hooked me up with a some history.
Bob Law is an attorney, isn't he?
Yes, Bob Law out of
Oh, I know
Brooklyn.
Bob Law. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
I don't know if he's well, but big shout out to Bob Law. We got to do some research on him right fast. But yeah, Bob Law and Davy D hit me to some history about Dr. Martin Luther King doing a presentation for like the National Black Broadcasters Association in like 1967.
Mm-hmm.
And in this address, he was basically thanking them for being such an integral part of wait a minute, okay, integral part of the civil rights movement. Um, you know, civil rights laws are getting passed, voting rights laws are getting passed. Black radio, black independent promotion companies. The black music was still being controlled by black people. We're talking about record labels. The majors only own like a minority share of the total market, right? So you got like, the majors might own, 30% of the market together collectively, the big 6 or 7 at the time. But independent music was primarily owned by music was owned by primarily independent record labels, right? So they gave us a direct network to spread the word, to motivate people, to get people on code, get people on the same page. And that's how we were able to, have those achievements, right? Okay. Somewhere shortly after, Clive Davis convenes, it's a Harvard think tank on black music. It's the Harvard Black Music Study, with the intentional purpose of rescuing black music from black people. And the answer was, give them some money. And that's when you start to see the advent of the black music department, right? Hip hop disrupted that for the time being. And then the same play all over again. You get that independent spirit into the major labels, and the people who run the major labels start to dictate what it looks like, sounds like, feels like, so forth and so on. So it's like that's kind of like the cycle and rinse process that we've been going through with music over the last, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can say that, I was around enough in that era to really see. Let me just go back to my own deal. So we were the only record to ever come out on that thing I sent you was Ebony Coast Records, right? They made that label just for us to make that record. No other rapper ever came out on that label. But let me give you a little history of who the dude who owned that label was. So in the 70s, there was a there was a disco group called. Do you remember Gary's Gang?
Gary's Gang, no.
Gary's Gang. If you pull them up, their hit record, I think it was on Radar Records, and it was called People are dancing, people dancing, loving and romancing.
Yeah. I know the game. I know the song. Yep.
So the dude, I forget his last name. His name was Gary something. It was his label, and he, everybody was seeing what hip hop was developing into. Some, 84 was, he was getting on a little late.
Hey, big bro, right? I'm sorry. I'm not gonna cut your wisdom. I'm gonna put you on full screen for a second.
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. Wait a minute. No, put you in. You talk about Gary's Gang. You just get here, give me the spiel.
So
did you freeze?
So I'd be waiting for me to come home from the penitentiary. And I'll come home. I forgot where I came home from. I'm not even sure. But in any event, we get together. We do this song, and I didn't know enough to read the terms. Do you know how much we were making a song? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Oh, yo, I'm sorry about that, big bro.
That's okay, brother.
It got crazy. I was, I'll be in the gym all day, drinking tons of water all day.
Anyway, my point in that conversation was just to express what we were getting a record. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we were getting 2 pennies a record.
Yeah.
And that was in those days, that was the status quo.
Yeah, it wasn't no money like that.
It was not. I never seen a royalty or nothing. And I know we sold a few records, because you can track things through different states. And I know we sold some records here and there, but I never ever even seen a here and near of a royalty check. Yeah,
you touched on something just there. I saw a clip of Fly Ty, Tyrone Williams from Cold Chillin', who passed.
Yeah, I know Ty. I knew him pretty.
Rest in peace to Fly Ty. Fly Ty, and it's a video clip going around of him talking about he was upset with Chris about his treatment of the owner of B-Boy Records and the money that was actually involved in it, and the amount of money that could actually be made from it, and how it wasn't really that much money to be made in it when you factor in expenses, pressing up wax, real wax, artwork, sleeve, distribution costs, putting it on the shelves. Like, the music game is on an independent level, is people are doing it for the love and the spirit. Yeah, there's some money in it. You can make some money, but it really is the love of the art form itself pushing it. What would you say to that?
Depends on what era you're talking about. In the beginning, that may have been true. By the time I came home in 1984, you could sell 500,000-600,000 records. So I'm trying to think, what did a single cost in those days? $3.99
to get pressed up, or to purchase?
To purchase from the store.
It was $2.99, $3.
Yeah,
$3 to purchase it. Yeah, you could probably get some 12 inches with like maybe $6-7.
Yeah,
Depending
so
on
I can't agree because they were not spending a lot of money on the artists in those days. Unless you were, you were becoming a household name, you know. But it was a fake right go left move for most artists, and then they would run up these exorbitant bills that you supposedly owed them, so you could never get from under the pressure. So you put out an album, you sell, let's just say you sold 200,000 records at let's round it off at $5. You sold an album at $5. You sold 200,000 records. Do you really think that beforehand that you spent uh $200,000 to make the record? No. So there should have always been some money for the artists. It's just that we didn't know anything about artist rights. That didn't start to come into vogue into the mid '80s, and even then, that was a 5-year process or more for artists to really understand what was mechanical royalties, and every time your song get played on the radio. These were you know situations you have to have some good guidance, good
yeah,
attorneys. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
we
I would
wouldn't.
I would say even later than that, like
Yeah, maybe
because
even
my
later
my
than.
era, my era, we still was kind of lost in the sauce, and not until you get to like the babies and the Master P's do we really understand you know
You're right. You're right. Now that I think about what you're saying, you're right. Because in the '80s, no, yo, it has been, always has been, even in all the other genres of black music, it's always been about your show. That's
yeah,
where we made our money at.
yeah,
Never ever really in the record sales, by and large. And that was the real difference between the white artists and the black artists. They could make money, millions of dollars off of record sales. And for some reason we did not capitalize until many, many years later. And probably through the advent, our capitalization off of that came through the advent of pushing the independent side of it.
back to independence. Like
Yes,
we say,
independence.
like the takeover is when we go corporate. They throw a bunch of money at something and it looks like you got, but they really just threw a crumb at you when you
When
off
you right, when you do the real math.
do the real math. You got a crumb. It
Yeah,
looked
see,
fly.
right. See, these are all the sophisticated conversation. Like we've jumped from one all around a giant pie to
Mhm.
talk about all the things that have affected us as artists, as black men and women, and we're not spending as a collective. We don't spend enough time really discussing the ins and outs of where we went wrong, so we don't do it in the future.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have to somewhere along the line, we have to stop
Well,
and say, when are we going to make it better for ourselves?
the Universal Hip Hop Museum.
What about it?
That seems like it could be a institution that promotes what you just said. Some place that's a home base where we can push economics, education. We could put all types of in the framework of hip hop community, but it's bigger than hip hop, like their press said.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Do you know who runs the Hip Hop Museum?
Nah, who does it? Rocky Bucano, no?
Rocky Bacano is the director of it, right?
Right.
This is going to bring me back to this whole thing with Bam.
Uh,
Bam was the one who even gave them the idea to do that. But they pushed him and his own nation out of it for whatever reason. Somebody said this, somebody said that. And I get that. You get public funding. I get it. But where are all the other people? Where are the other founders and people who were a part of the culture? Where are they at? It didn't start with Nas. I'm glad he's a part of it. I'm glad he's doing something, and I think Rocky's a decent dude. But I think that we need to have more conversations about who is really in control of it. If he's in control and he's going to do the right thing, that's a blessing. But if he's just making it, if he's just doing it, and then white folks are going to come over and commandeer it, then I have to question it.
right. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know the ins and out of the politics behind it. I know the Universal Hip Hop Museum is Rocky's baby for a long time.
Yeah, it's brother. I was here when we first started having conversations before that building was even thought about being built. At first, they was gonna do the Armory on Kingston
Hmm.
in the Bronx. We had all kind of meetings with different construction companies to do that spot. It wound up not falling through, and I will have to commend him of having the fortitude to continue pushing and pushing and pushing where a lot of people would have given up. So
Yeah,
I have to give him that respect for doing the hip hop museum. But I just want to know what is the future of it. Are you going to allow other people to come in and take over? And that seems to happen a lot when we do anything on a grand scale.
yeah. Well, and not to say that Rocky's doing this for money.
No, I'm not saying that.
So I think that when you create something and you're that much involved in it, you should get paid. You should be able to eat. But that's a whole nother story.
Right.
Um,
I agree with you.
like you said, the stick-to-itiveness, the focus, the perseverance to make an idea a reality of that scale
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. Like, it's amazing what it's turning out to be, right? We live in a capitalist world,
Yes.
and when something can generate that value and it can turn a profit, you see people who always said it couldn't happen come down and say, okay, where's my piece?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
Everybody
just
was a part of the foundation when you listen to their stories. And many times we have no idea who they are.
right. Now that's just the nature of America and where we are. Somebody was saying that earlier about something totally different. No, it was about basketball. Steve Nash was
Mhm.
talking about American basketball and how it's too much money involved in it. Therefore, it's like the young players, the younger athletes aren't getting the development they need because the money's involved. And Steve Nash, mind you, a white Canadian, is saying that there's too much money in basketball. Capitalism is taking over, and that's the reason why the end product is the way it is.
Yeah, said by a white man who never had to think about how to survive.
Yeah, but I think the thing is the system that we live in dictates how we live in it to some degree. Like in order to live differently, we have to change the structure itself, the dynamic itself, in order to live differently.
Yo,
When you
so
think of
you just said that, right?
other interests that come, we'd have to. When you got something as big as this has become, how do we protect ourselves from the inevitable? Is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
There's
And
inevitability of
and the counter
wolves.
to that is so I read different things, the Black Panthers and different black movements in the historical sense,
Mhm.
and talking about tearing down the system as it is. When do you guys think that's gonna happen? Do you think that it's
Oh
ever
no,
gonna happen?
that shit happening.
Okay.
Oh no,
Right.
I'm not saying it's
Right.
happening. I'm saying that in creating something, right? The idea of America is you create something so you can sell it.
Yes.
That's capitalism 101. I got
That's
something, I'm gonna
capitalism.
sell it.
Right.
I got
That's
something,
Western
I'm gonna sell it to you.
capitalism. That's right.
Right. And everybody got to hustle.
Right.
If you don't have one in America, you need to get yourself a hustle.
Or get out of America.
Or get out of America, which is the
Right.
point. Like, in order to operate differently, there has to be a different structural dynamic that you're dealing with, or you look at it prior to even, like, it has to be built into it. Like, I'm expecting the wolves to be at the door, and when they get to the door, this is what I'm gonna do, and it's
Right.
already kind of factored in. If you get to a point, because we're just trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, right? It's real, like, man, I'm just trying to get to the next. You're creating the reality without the ability to go, when the wolves get there, this is what I'm gonna do, because you don't even know if you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
And when you get there,
and you got to be prepared.
you gotta be prepared.
Right. You got to be able to repel the wolves.
You gotta be able to
If
repel.
you don't, they'll be in your door. They'll eat up all that, and then they'll eat you.
Right. So, it's always I don't even like saying it like this because we all are to some degree a sellout. Like I created this thing, I gotta sell it in order to
Right, you're in the system. Is that's the only way you can survive is by selling things out. That's a very true statement that we don't even think about too often. You know,
yeah.
we got to
Now,
sell something.
yeah.
Now, what you're willing to sell is another question.
I put out this song last year called "Don't Sell Your Ass."
Right.
Can I play it for you?
Sure, you can. You already know that.
And I like some feedback on it when you see it. Or I say after you see it. Oh yeah. I appreciate your patience, big bro.
No problem, brother. You can send me a copy of this when we done.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yo, people will really sell their soul for this shit, bruh. They say they about the culture, but really, they just want to show their ass. Yo, these niggas bugging. They ain't really saying nothing, just hustling. Walk around, looking sus, and it's all just disgusting. Ew. These rappers make me sick, please pass the ball cussing. He said it's Spike E, man, get up off your knees. I believe I can fly, but first I gotta pee. He was such a G, king of flipping games, rocking the caviar, and I've come to this pain. Another soul down the drain. He was really just a lame, but the cult of personality is difficult to tame. Just a drug in the vein, the whole world is insane. They all swallowed up, and to me it's just a shame, and it's sad. It's academics and it's glad. We wanna tell our business while the nerdy get mad. Be about the bad, little lawsuit is a drag. Like a politics, they say my nigga is a, come on. I'm saying we gotta do better, you know what I mean? Tell me about it. Niggas out here talking about peeing on each other and shit. Peeing on each other. Type shit, you know what I mean? Trying to make that shit sexy out there. Ain't nothing sexy about that. Niggas talking about they booty hole and shit. That's what we at. They booty hole. That's how we gonna raise the babies, yo. Yo, let's do better, yo. Hang around the cesspool, you bound to get shit on. So many play themselves just to try to get on. All captivated, caught up in a trance. This life is like a party and the devil wanna dance and you do the hustle. Now you wanna tussle and rustle. You had the records, but you ain't had the muscle to get you for your publishing. Now you caught up in the shuffle. Said you was getting the bag, but all you got was ruffles. Plus the internet's undefeated. When I see you can read it. Power's a drug and these people need it. If you deep it, it really ain't no secret. They want you for your soul, you gotta fight to try to keep it. Michael tried to tell us, but we told them beat it. And they took back his catalog like we all didn't see it. I can't believe it, albeit what you sow, you receive it. We gotta do better if the future's gonna see it. I'm telling y'all better get y'all act together. They ain't playing around. Say it in a minute, they just gonna cut it.
Yo, you know what I like about your rapping and your music is that these things you singing almost automatically go with a conversation. You say you might not be the greatest rapper in the world or any of that, but when I hear your stuff, I want to talk.
Wow.
And I think that's something to be said about that kind of rap music. It allows us to have a conversation about the world we live in. Because you drop some very unusual lines in there, and it makes me like, yo, what you meant by that?
Such as
I know what you meant by that, but I want to conversate with somebody who don't know what you meant.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I try to drop a bar, yeah.
Yeah.
So, bars, yeah.
That's what I love. And rappers like you who say something that means something, and everybody might not get it tonight, but if you really listen to it, you'll get it tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, that's thank you.
That's your duty.
Thank you. I'm glad you acknowledge that. You see that because that's exactly what the intent is to leave you with something that you might not get it right now, but it'll grow on you and you will get it.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're trying to think.
That's right.
I
For
get
sure.
100%. So, you know, anytime, brother, you want me on your show, you just give me a call, and
Ah,
I'm more than willing. You know, like brothers like yourself, myself, you know, we really need to be meeting the movers and shakers of the black movement in America today, because we don't really realize
mhm.
what we're going to be facing shortly,
Yeah.
at least in the short term. And
And it's here.
it,
It's here up front in
yeah,
our face. And if we
it's
don't
here
see it,
up
we're
front in our
blind.
face. And one thing Trump has done, I don't know if a lot of people are thinking about it, you have changed the normality of American politics.
Yeah.
So what you have done, we might can undo it after you're out of office, right? We might can, but it's not going to be a short thing to undo it. And what you have done to the office of the presidency, people are now going to say that that is could be the norm, whether they Democratic or Republican. If they're in office, there's no reason for them not to do the same thing that you have done.
That's right. Precedence.
You set the precedence for the insanity. The rule of law is no longer the preceding or the most optimum force in America. Now it is the office of presidency and doing anything you want to do with a signature of your pen.
Yeah.
So we gotta be on alert for that, man, because it's going. You know, power. You know the old saying. We all know that saying. Power corrupts, and absolute
Absolutely.
power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
we gotta be aware of that. And if we really want to go forward with what we call this democracy, this experiment in democracy, it's just an experiment. It could
That's
stop.
right. Yeah.
It can stop.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
it can stop. The Constitution was a living document, and it showed us it has. In the beginning, we were not considered even human, a full human being, but we have grown, and the Constitution has grown with us.
Yeah.
But if we throw it out the window, can you imagine what it's going to be in the next 10 to 20 to 30 years?
Yeah. I can't call. I know we can have a whole nother conversation. I don't want to
Yes.
hold,
Right.
but that said, we will have you back on the show.
God willing.
ASAP. My brother, it's always great seeing you, always great talking to you, and I love you,
I'm
bro.
so glad we had this conversation, and I'm glad
Likewise.
we had the conversation to get to the to podcast conversation, because that was the first part of it. Us just talking among,
Yeah,
with each other, just
that's
being
right.
brothers talking to brothers. And
That's
then we
right.
said, let's do this. And anything you want me on, if you want me on, and if somebody says
Absolutely.
with somebody
Absolutely.
else, I'm
Yep.
more than willing to rock with you at any point in time.
Thank you, family.
Peace and love.
Muhammad Islam. Salute, my big bro.
Best brother, bless.
Yeah. Yo, this is the Hakeem Green Show. Oh, one more reminder for the folks out there. I got to make sure I do this. I front, and then my wife kind of pull my coat. I want to give a big shout out to first HBC Outdoors, who does my merch. I got to shout them out. But also want to make sure you guys see what we got going on over on madisminc.com, which is also HakimGreen.com. Boom. There it hit right there. Got the All We Do Is Spark Madism designs, sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeves, and we also got the baseball tees, got the muscle joints, got the gold foil, and we also gonna remind people, don't sell your ass.
That's a good reminder, brother.
Yeah, I mean, a good reminder. So that said, check in with madisminc.com, HakimGreen.com. This is the Hakeem Green Show. Muhammad Islam, peace and salute, my bro.
Peace, King.